Did you guys read the news? Because it's written all over it, brother. But the Straw Hats are getting cooked here in Elbaph. What a glorious day to God Knight fans across the world. Welcome back in, everybody, to the Postgame show for chapter 1180. Just in case this is your first time tuning into one of these videos, what we like to do here is that we like to go back through the comment section of the previous video just to see what everybody's talking about coming off of the Imu Nerona Slaughterfest chapter. So, without further ado, let's hop right into it, man. Here we go. The top comment does say that Usopp is watching the man he rage baited just one tap his strongest crewmates. Okay, to be fair, I do like the Usopp rage bait memes, but I do believe that Emu was gonna come here one way or another. It's just funny because it does coincide with Usopp saying, hey, do it with your own two hands, man. Do it with your own two freaking hands. Also, as far as Usopp goes, we do have to keep in mind that by the time we end chapter 1180, of course, Loki is standing off against Emu, but right alongside them, not too far away, is actually Usopp, Brook, Jinbei, Frankie, Sanji if he's still around, Luffy, and Nami. There is a big audience that should be witnessing the Loki-Emu confrontation, and Usopp is one of them. Usopp is one of them. Any minute now, he's gonna get back up and snipe Emu from afar. And then Emu will probably just dodge the bullet. This says, oh yeah, Jinbei, the world's strongest firefighter, is getting an upscale after putting out those damn black flames. Oh my god, imagine that. Oda has an online Twitter account. He's seen the Jinbei firefighter memes, and he's gonna make this canon, goddammit. I will admit, this would be really funny. Even though there is no chance in hell that Jinbei is gonna be able to do it, man. No way, no way. This says, the Holy Knights got washed so hard, they gotta hand the controller over to their older sibling who is goated at the game. I think a better analogy would be that their older brother came into the room and gave them Game Shark, which if you guys don't know what Game Shark is, back in the day, it was like a disc that you'd insert into like your PlayStation or GameCube, and it would give you pretty much every cheat known to mankind. This says, Mu is looking for a motherfucker, chapter 1180. Dude, he's moving, man. He does remind me. Of course, the parallels have been there, but even more so here in this chapter, he reminds me of Enel. You know, remember that dude? Back in Skypiea, Enel was going around catching bodies left and right. Even Zoro didn't stand a chance against Enel. That's how crazy it was. It was a 5v1, and Enel came out unscathed. Actually, Enel died during that fight just to show us that he could come back to life. You know, that's aura, man. You know, between the regeneration that they got, between the baggy pants that Enel and Emu have, they are making crazy moves. And funny enough, you know, Enel did come in with observation haki. The first time we've ever seen observation haki in the entire series, and he called it mantra. In a weird way, that's kind of reminiscent to Emu and his gang, and how they're now using maki, which is like demonic haki. So it's like, dang, dude, Enel, Emu, like potato. And then in this chapter, we see that the fire cloud behind him actually makes a full circle ring. Enel had a freaking ring attached to his back. It's crazy, brother. It is absolutely crazy. And then, of course, you know, this one's been talked about to hell and back, but Emu does have a flying weapon ship, potentially Uranus, we don't know for sure yet. And guess who also had a flying ship of death? Enel. You know, Enel really set us up for the Emu confrontation. And, you know, possibly just like Enel versus Luffy, there is a high chance that Nika is the counter to Emu. Because Nika is all about white flames and liberation, Luffy might have the perfect fruit that can actually combat Mu. But we'll see, right? I don't think Luffy has fully mastered his fruit, so will it be super effective? That is yet to be seen. Loki is so goated, man. He stood up for his father and his country when it really mattered. Top 10 character for me right there. I don't blame you, man. Elbaph has legitimately been the gift that keeps on giving. From Loki to Harold, to Roxy Zebek, to Garling, which, you know, people don't like Garling, but I like Garling, right? And then now we have the Emu reveal. The characters that are getting introduced have just been phenomenal left and right. For me, what really made me like Loki, the moment that really stood out, was when he called Ida his real mom. That one actually touched my soul. I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I am a little bit of a Loki fan. This comment says, it is sad that Gerd lost her fingers, since we were told how much he likes to do crafts and make human clothes. Oh, you're right. You know, funny, when I saw Gerd losing her fingers, the first thing I thought of was the fact that Gerd is a doctor. So it's like, oh, like, could she simply stitch her fingers back? Will she be fine? Does she have to give up doctoring? Is she gonna get mechanical fingers? Because we do have to remember, you know, Vegapunk is on the island. So maybe they get robotic thumbs and index fingers, and then Stanson could get like a robotic leg. You know, this isn't the end of their appendages. Is that the right term? I think it is. This says, Emu was willing to employ the guy who killed his faithful servant 14 years ago. These guys do not do background checks. Oh my lord. Yeah, the information gathering is not exactly a 10 out of 10, but if they did end up employing Loki, they'd have to give him the Mark of the Abyss. And at that point in time, Loki wouldn't be able to fight back. Of course, you know, if he gets far enough away, he could fight back for a little bit. But if he gets the tier 2 mark, it is game over. Not even King Harold could break through that contract. One-tapping Zoro and Sanji, just like how Kaido one-tapped Luffy, really shows how far ahead Emu really is. Yeah, and the craziest part is that this is Zoro and Sanji post-Wano, post-Egghead. They're strong. You know, he isn't just going around one-tapping the Toby Roppo, one-tapping Grand Fleet members. No. Zoro and Sanji, man, they're like top-tier Yonko commanders, and Emu just took him out like it's nobody's business. On the bright side, though, the silver lining about this whole situation is that with Zoro and Sanji going down, they're just going to get back up that much stronger. They're going to look for a buff. They're going to train a little bit harder. So yes, even though they did get one-tapped, I do see this as a positive. And, you know, going over to Luffy being one-tapped by Kaido, what happened afterwards? Luffy got thrown into Udon prison, and he learned Ryuo. And then guess what? He went up to the rooftop, and then he got Gear 5th and Advanced Conquers Haki. I do think that Sanji and Zoro will grow a lot from this defeat. Emu acting like a skill check boss in a Souls game. The crew will have to get good, yeah? Who's that boss at the beginning of Elden Ring that you have to fight? Not the Tree Sentinel. It's, the guy in the bridge. Margit? Margit. There's Margit from Elden Ring. Dark Souls 2, I immediately go to Smelter Demon. But I guess Emu would be more equivalent to, like, Dark Lurker, where it's like a secret optional boss, and he also has the wings, and he's kind of scary. Yeah, I agree, dude. Emu is a skill check final boss. One that just kind of pops out of nowhere, right? This says, Emu blocking Zoro's attack that way reminded me of what Mihawk did to him when they first fought, and using the sole of his foot to block Sanji's attack is poetic. It's like he's saying they're not worth his time without saying. Pretty much. You know, of course, the spoilers did say that Emu blocked Zoro with the tip of his tail. That's kind of true, but kind of not true. It's like the end of his tail, not exactly the tip, like the way Mihawk blocked Zoro with like the tip of his blade. But close enough, right? And yeah, you know, Emu did not care at all about Zoro or Sanji. He dealt with them with absolute ease. He was aura farming while doing it, brother. That is how absurd it is. This says, Omen, the kanji means demonic aura. So Emu is literally aura farming on the Straw Hats. It's pretty crazy, huh? The term aura is just being tossed around everywhere. And this time, it's canon. Emu doing the Mihawk with a knife versus Zoro all over again, and Onigiri is now in its evolved form. I do wonder, you know, not to bring Mihawk into the equation, but would Mihawk be a threat to Emu? Like, for example, remove Zoro and Sanji from Elbaph right now. Get him out of this chapter. Replace Zoro and Sanji with Mihawk and Shanks. Would Emu also just one-tap them? Or will Mihawk and Shanks perform a lot better? I'd like to imagine they perform a lot better, but how much better? Could they push Emu back? Or is it one of those things where Emu really is just tiers above everyone? I do question that, man. You know, it's one of those what ifs that I wish One Piece got into. Like every year, tangent, ReZero does like a what if chapter, like, oh, what if this happens? What if this is the route we go down? I wish Oda did that. Just not even like a full chapter, but just half a chapter. Like, oh, what if Shanks did come to Elbaph? What if Zoro fought Mihawk one more time? That'd be a lot of fun. This next comment says, yes. Mu remembers a long-nosed, orange-bearded bum looking for thy smoke. Mu has come to accept thy challenge. Yeah, and then he turns around and Usopp's still on the ground. Like, does Emu even go for the kill? I don't think so, man. You know, Emu did say in this chapter that they don't have a lot of time. Hey, Sommers, hurry up. Waste not. I don't think that Emu really cares about Usopp at this point. Because he's potentially taking consistent damage and bleeding from the mouth, I think Usopp is the least of his worries here. This says, it appears his blob form and his actual form don't hold the same memory, as if he's waking up from a dream or something. Oh, yeah, so this might be in reference to the beginning of the chapter, where Emu talks about, hey, where is the king? Where is the king of Elbaph? And it's like, Emu, you should know there's no king of Elbaph. You should know that the throne here is empty. King Harold is dead. Jarl never took it up. Loki doesn't want it. Hajruden's a bastard. He should technically know all this already. So this isn't a bad theory. I just don't know if I put a lot of stock into it yet. For me, I would just love one more clean bit of dialogue that backs this up. But this is a fun theory, though. This is a really fun theory. This one says, the reveal of Loki's hybrid form will definitely happen next chapter. I am so effing hyped for chapter 1181. Yep, and no break next week either, man. Of course, for 1182, there might be a break. I say might because it is Golden Week. So we're not getting an official chapter for 1182 that week, the week that we should. But of course, with how leaks and spoilers work, we might actually still get the chapter. So that is TBD for now. This says, Emu showed Sanji the real devil's leg Diable Jambe. Peep, how Emu said, what have you been up to? Meanwhile, Emu was just here. Different personality dash person. Okay, so again, it's backing up this theory. One way to clean this up and explain why Emu says, hey, what are you up to, Sommers? Is because he wasn't there when Sommers was getting packed up. Emu was still in Gunko's body doing his own thing. He was fighting Brook and Usopp while Sommers was getting packed up. So Emu asking, what have you been up to, actually does make sense. Because, you know, Emu is over here in Gunko's body, and then St. Sommers is over here, and they're both fighting their own battles. So I don't think this is super crazy. So I wouldn't count this as a +1 to this theory. Again, I like the theory. I just need more concrete evidence. I don't think that this is super strong, personally. This says, the Giants generally are losers. My guy didn't stutter. I don't like Giants, man. You know, I have been consistent with this. Go back to the oldest videos I have on all of my channels. I have never liked these dirty Giants. Even when I was a kid watching One Piece, you know, little 9-year-old Sai just clapping his hands like an idiot. I didn't like Dory and Broggy. I really didn't, man. I thought they were too damn big. They were too dumb. And just, you know, they were good vibes. I liked them as characters. I just don't like their race. You know what I mean? This says, best part is that there's no break next week. Let's go. Based on the spoilers, the chapter did a fantastic job showing exactly how and why Emu has been ruling the world for the past 800 years, yeah? It shows us why there's no real contention for the throne. You know, if somebody ever goes up to the Holy Land and tries to fight Emu, they're getting cooked. Hell, even Rox didn't want to fight Emu. Remember that? You know, of course, Rox was super aura farming. He was sitting down with his legs crossed, gun in hand, in the flower room. But the narrator box said that Rox knew what he could and couldn't do. He knew that he was not ready for this matchup. Even the GOAT knew that he could not beat Emu. This says, but did Zoro have his bandana on? And did Sanji have his eyebrows flipped? No. Sanji's eyebrows were not flipped. He was not in Jerma mode. And Zoro had no bandana. But that's because this all happened too quickly. Even when it comes to Zoro and Sanji, I think they're going to be down for the count for a while, right? We're not going to see the bandana for a hot minute. We're not going to see the eyebrow flip for a hot minute. We saw Sanji on the ground afterwards. We see that Chopper is bringing Zoro into a building to heal him. Our boys are not looking good, brother. They're not looking good. Quick clarification on something, but Sanji is using Germa mode when he does attack Emu. So I'm assuming that attack is Ifrit Jambe, but when Sanji gets attacked by Emu, you can see that Germa mode is no longer active because its eyebrows do switch back. Emu has personal beef with people's limbs. Sorry to bring up another anime, but off rip, he kind of reminds me of Sukuna, and how Sukuna just goes around like cutting everything to pieces. That's pretty much Emu, man. That is pretty much Emu. Kind of surprised he doesn't have a black blade. I'm assuming the sword comes with the devil fruit transformation because that's when it spawned in. Unless he just had it like in his prison wallet. But why is it not black? You know, I hate to be that guy, but what's up with that? You know, I feel like out of everybody in this series, you know, we got Ryuma, we got Mihawk. I feel like Emu should be on that list of black blade wielders. Why isn't he? Does he not want it? Is this like a special weapon and it can't be blackened? I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe he never really sought it. You know, maybe it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I never knew it was possible. Which would be a crazy flex. Like, oh, you can make black blades? Okay, cool. And then he just makes the blade black. No. He's too smart, man. You know, Emu's been around the block. Surely he knows about it. Surely he knows about it. Bro, casually has the Abyss mark in the back. I love it, man. I got that while I was in Japan. They sold that at the official One Piece shop, and I just had to snag it. It was the last one on the shelf, too. It was meant to be, man. It was meant to be. Sai remembers that Hajruden is important, but the question is, does Oda remember? I think he does. You know, I hate to bring the anime into the equation, but in the anime, man, you know, Loki and Hajruden, dude, they're paralleling each other. You know, you can't see one without seeing the other. I feel like Hajruden's going to be very significant. You know, Hajruden and Usopp, they are my sleeper hits for Elbaph. They're going to do phenomenal stuff here in this arc. I believe it. I really do. This has one interesting thing to note is that the kanji used for demonic aura in the title is called Maki, and this is using the exact same kanji as what is used for Haki. The only difference being the first character. So rather than a supreme or strong will, it's more of a demonic will. So Emu has his own version of Haki. Yes, Haki and Maki. It is now a thing, and now I do wonder, but will there be a godly version of Haki? I don't know what we would call it at that point. I'm not really good with kanji, believe it or not. But we have Haki, we have Maki. Would it be like Gaki or Zaki or something? I do think there will be a god version of what Emu has. And it could be with Luffy's white flame, right? We have black flames coming in hot with Emu. We could have white flames or even purple flames like the mother flame being the next version. We will see. Wings getting one shot to same level as Usopp to me. What does this mean? You mean like, because they're getting one shot, they're now like Usopp level? I don't necessarily agree with that. It's a funny joke. I'll give you that though. I'll give you that one. This has next chapter. It's just going to be Yarul and Emu confrontation after Loki is defeated, setting up Yarul's death, and the will be passed on to Hajruden. Oh, look, hey, somebody else remembers Hajruden. I do think that Yarul has a couple of death flags, personally. Only problem with this is that Yarul is pretty far. Yarul, last we saw, is still at the Western Village. Emu was literally right there in front of Yarul, and then he jumped and flew away, and then now he ended up at the Owl Library, which is at the opposite end of the branch, mind you, right? The school is over here. The village is over here. Remember that? We had like a whole like 10 chapter thing where the kids were walking down the branch. Yarul is very far away. So unless he just, you know, starts booking it and running super fast, this confrontation is going to be a long shot. Even though I do agree with you, I do think that Yarul versus Emu would be a good fight. And we still have that weird dialogue and title chapter where Yarul mentioned how he likes older women. And it's like, I don't know what's up with that. Of course, Emu's a guy, right? We know that Emu is a dude now. So it doesn't really relate to Emu anymore. So it's like, will that ever come back into play? And then the sword in Yarul's head. We know that Yarul has a legendary blade, as said by Harold, in his head. When are we going to get it out? I feel like he has to die. He has to die, or he has to get cured and, you know, the sword pulled out of his head. Something big has to happen with Yarul. I just don't know what. Is he going to get cooked? Is he going to get a fight? Are we simply going to remove the sword? Dude, decisions. Zoro catching Omen to the face is what makes him open his eye. Zoro opening his eye because of Omen. That would be interesting. You know, this goes back to like the really old theory that Zoro has a demon in his eye. I don't necessarily agree with it per se, but I wouldn't mind it. You know, this is a theory that I'm like, okay, if Zoro has some special eye powers, cool. But if he doesn't, and he's simply closing his eye because it got cut, or because he just doesn't want to open it, I'm fine with that too. You know, when it comes to Zoro eye theories, I'm very much so neutral. I don't hate him, I don't love him. I'm just there for the ride for this one. So if this does happen, awesome. But what kind of eye are we gonna see? Like, dude, you know how crazy it would be if Zoro opens his eye for the first time in like, what, 12, 15 years? And it's a Hawkeye? Like, Mihawk just gave him like an extra eye or something, or like he made it a little bit special. That'd be so absurd. I mean, it would be a power-up though, right? That could be a genuine power-up. Like, oh, now Zoro's observation hockey is really good. Now Zoro can see into the future like Rudeus or something. I don't know, man. I don't know. Usopp will get Conqueror's hockey, but only when he has the mask on as the king of snipers. Surprised, nobody else has realized this yet. We've talked about this before. There have been theories about Usopp getting Conqueror's hockey, and some people do like it being tied to the persona. I'm pretty neutral on it. I do think that Usopp has a okay chance at getting Conqueror's hockey. If he does get it, I don't think he'll be the strongest. You know, when people hear Conqueror's hockey, they're like, oh my god, he's like top of the verse. I think if he does get it, it's going to be like the weakest Conqueror's hockey we have ever seen. And there has been a lie about it as well, right? There's an ongoing thing where like, oh, you know, some of Usopp's lies actually come true later down the road. One lie he did tell was about him having Conqueror's hockey. He said that back in Wano. We saw that Beast Pirate members were passing it left and right. And he said, oh, it's because of my massive Conqueror's hockey. That wasn't it. It was actually just Big Mom behind him doing all the work. So it's like, okay, like the stage is set for Usopp to get it. And this would be a great moment for Usopp and Elbaph, but will it happen? And also, when it comes to the King of Snipers, does he still have the mask? I don't know. When was the last time he whipped out the mask? Wasn't it just like in his lobby? I don't think he's whipped it out ever since, right? Yeah, I mean, he doesn't need to. The reason why he whipped it out was mainly to hide his face from his friends. But nowadays, it's like, nah, dude, like that's not really him. And then plus, if he wants to be a brave warrior of the sea, I feel like it has to be Usopp, not Sogeking. He has to own up to it himself. So I'm pretty iffy on this one. But I do agree, you know, if he gets Conqueror's hockey, that'd be pretty dope. Emu completely turned the situation around, takes out two of the strongest characters, heals his team fully, and now he can simply focus on the two main bosses. Are they even bosses in his eyes? Like, you know, come next chapter, I want a good fight. I want Loki to go hybrid form. I want it to be a long battle. But is that in the cards? Seeing how Emu has gone around just one-shotting people, will Loki or even Luffy be able to put up a good fight? I think I might have to pull that one. Zoro having Mihawk flashbacks. It's going to look like that scene. Zoro, I will never lose again. Chapter 1180, okay. Yeah, when it comes to Zoro saying he'll never lose again, one, it's a great joke to bring up every time he loses. But two, I think in the context of this, it's more so that he'll never lose to a swordsman. Because if we do count general losses, he did lose to Enel. He did technically lose to Kuma. And it's like, yeah, dude, you know, I bet there's more that I just forgot about. But yeah, this isn't the first time he's gone down since that line has dropped. To be fair, none of them were swordsmen in particular. Emu is just using the magic circles from Fate to use Magecraft. That is why he has lines and dots all over his body. That's interesting. I like that. I like that. You know, giving the lines and dots purpose, I am 100% on board. Why not? Emu giving the Straw Hats the Kizaru versus Supernova treatment. This late into the series is kinda crazy. It's kind of crazy, but it's well welcomed. We have been eating good for too long. Too many people think that there's no stakes in the series. Too many people didn't want to see Luffy and the gang lose. I thought it was about time we had a course correction to bring us to the final stage, to put us on the same level as your Shankses, Mihawks, Dragons, Garlings, Gorosei. I don't know if I want to put them up there, but you guys know what I mean, right? We need that last kick in the ass to push us to another level of power. And I think Emu is doing that right here. Of course, the Strats are going to survive the situation. We're going to lick our wounds, and then we're just going to keep on getting stronger. But with that being said, though, guys, let me know your thoughts on all this down below. Thank you so much for commenting in the last video, and thank you so much for watching this video all the way until the end. I really freaking appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next couple of days for the prediction video of chapter 1181. In the pinned comment, I will be asking for your one-line predictions, so feel free to drop those down below and I'll pick 3 to feature in the video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Until next time, brothers, peace out and stay safe.